Three sinister true tales of terrifying isolation in the woods, secrets revealed in Volume 2. In Briarwood, the woods have a way of swallowing you whole. The townsfolk whisper of eerie lantern lights flickering through the branches at night, beckoning children too far into the darkness. But Jessie, a single mother in her 30s, didn't believe the stories. Not until she found that note on her car windshield after her shift at the diner. "Stay away from the woods," it said, in jagged, scrawled letters that sent a chill down her spine. She dismissed it as a prank, shoved it aside, and started the engine of her rusty hatchback, fatigue weighing heavy on her. But with every turn on the road, shadows loomed larger. The trees felt like they were bending, reaching out like skeletal fingers prepared to snatch her away. Jessie shook off the creeping dread, focusing on the bills due back home. Jake was waiting for her. He needed her. The thought of him alone cast an even darker shadow in her heart. Days turned to nights, a heavy blanket of anxiety settling over their shabby cottage. Jessie noticed odd prints leading from the woods to her porch. Soft scratches echoed against the window as she tried to tuck Jake into bed. "Just the wind," she told him, though her voice trembled as she glanced toward the dark woods, feeling eyes were watching. He, too, began to retreat into silence, staring wide-eyed at the outside like he saw something she didn't see. The nights grew longer, filled with the rustling sounds that pulled at her sanity. Whispers at the diner hinted at a sheriff who knew more than he told. Her blood ran cold. Stories of missing townspeople stirred like angry ghosts. One night, dread turned into despair. Jake grabbed his flashlight. "I'm just exploring, Mom," he shouted. His excitement pierced her heart with panic. "Stay close," she yelled back, but he was gone, swallowed by the abyss. Her pulse raced as she called his name into the oppressive darkness. The woods swallowed her sounds, taunted her cries. 1,000 horrors flooded her mind, gripping her tightly. She dashed outside, fear rising like bile in her throat. As she moved deeper into the woods, the air thickened, chilling her bones. Rustling leaves whispered the town's old secrets, and with each step, she felt the weight of centuries pressing against her. Shadows surged and twisted through the trees, and Jessie caught glimmers of memories, lost faces from a town that denied their grief. They were like her, lost in the void, disappearing into the suffocating silence. Before we continue, I need to tell you something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to their system, and many people are missing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, click the bell and select all notifications so you don't miss future videos. And if you can leave a like, it really helps me with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, tell me in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue with every step forward. Jessie felt the air crackle with tension. This was no mere adventure for Jake. It was something much darker, and she would do anything not just for her son but against whatever had slipped into their lives. As she ventured further, a pair of eyes blinked back at her from the shadows. A grotesque figure loomed in the dim light, twisting the realm of reality into horror. Jessie froze, terror gripping her heart. The figure morphed into a blend of the familiar and the monstrous, and in that paralyzing moment, she was left to contemplate a horrifying choice. Embrace the truth woven through the fabric of her own fears, or turn back and let her family's destiny fade into the very darkness that sought to consume them. Would any of them ever escape the sinister secrets lying in wait? Jessie's breath hitched as she stood, frozen, before the figure cloaked in shadows. It shifted, elongating in ways that made her stomach churn. Every fiber of her being screamed to retreat, but her love for Jake ignited a fierce determination within her. What if this creature was the answer to finding him? The air around her crackled again, thickening until it felt like a weight pressing on her chest. The figure's features coalesced, revealing a grotesque parody of a human face, twisted in anguish yet reflecting something painfully familiar. Jessie squinted, as the memories of a broken family blurred through her mind. "Jake!" she shouted, her voice quivering but louder than the thrumming dread. "Jake! Where are you?" The figure flinched, recoiling as if struck. It pointed back further into the woods, its skeletal finger trembling. Jessie hesitated, a flood of conflicting emotions tightening her throat. The woods felt like they were breathing, alive with whispers, each rustle, each sigh, hinting at a sinister presence just out of sight. She took a hesitant step forward. "I will find him," she said, mostly to herself, that as she traversed deeper, the light from her world faded, swallowed by the encroaching dark. Twisted branches snagged at her clothes, and the wind howled through the gaps, sounding eerily like her son's laughter. Panic clawed at her heart as she glimpsed fleeting movements in the corners of her vision, shadows darting among the trees, mocking her desperation. "Hold on, Jake. I'm coming," she cried out again, her voice echoing eerily, swallowed by the haunting stillness. The ground felt unsteady beneath her, roots writhing like snakes. A sickening sensation began to churn in her stomach. Were these woods feeding off her fear? Then she heard it, the faintest whisper, a child's voice, tinged with laughter. It split the silence like glass shattering. Jessie rushed towards the sound, heart pounding in her ears, praying it was Jake. With every step, a sickening feeling crawled up her spine. The laughter transformed, reaching her ears again, but this time it morphed into something sinister, echoing as if it were mocking her with every syllable. "Mommy, where are you?" The sweetness twisted into an eerie drone that sent chills dancing across her skin. Jessie stopped dead in her tracks. That wasn't Jake. Panic flooded her. Her instincts screamed that something was dangerously wrong. Turning back, she felt the weight of the woods shift. The path she had taken was gone. The trees were closing in around her, branches reaching out like hands desperate to restrain her. Shadows twisted and contorted, laughing at her futile attempts to escape. "Help! Somebody, please!" she yelled, desperation clawing her voice. Her heart raced while adrenaline crashed through her veins. Goosebumps crawled along her skin as she stumbled backward, her flashlight flickering violently. Each light flash revealed glimpses of the grotesque figures, lost souls trapped in these woods, chanting their tortured lamentations. Just when she thought she might sink into madness, a sudden light burst through the encompassing darkness. A lantern flickered to life nearby, casting soft, beckoning shadows that elegantly danced through the trees. The warmth of it seeped into her bones, a stark contrast against the chill that wrapped around her. Clinging to that fragile hope, Jessie sprinted toward the light. Could it be a way out? Or was it an even deeper trap? She followed it, heart hammering in her chest as she called Jake's name again. But dread pooled in her stomach. What if whatever was on the other side was not there to help? As she entered a clearing, the lantern illuminated a circle of figures, faces contorted in agony and release, locked in eternal grief. Jessie's heart stopped. Shadows danced around them, crossing the barrier of reality. They turned toward her, eyes glowing with despair. Could she rescue Jake from this nightmare? Or was she too late to save both of them? The deeper truth loomed, tempting her as fear flooded her senses. No turning back now. But as she stepped into the circle, she wasn't prepared for the truth that awaited her in this realm. The woods were alive, and they were hungry for her. Jessie stumbled into the circle, blood pounding in her ears, the lantern's glow exposing faces twisted with loss. Each figure was a reflection of despair. Eyes sunken, mouths agape, whispering secrets that danced around her like spectral smoke. They were yearning, trapped within a nightmare she couldn't begin to grasp. "Jake!" she shouted again, pain lacing her voice. The shadows seemed to throb, pulsing with an energy that twisted her stomach into knots. They were watching her, each gaze a dagger piercing her heart. The air around her thickened, thick with sorrow and longing, wrapping around her like a shroud. And then, from behind the dark figures, a familiar sound echoed, smaller and softer, like a fading whisper. "Mommy?" The voice sent a shockwave through her. Jake's voice. She spun, heart racing, seeking him, but the forest adjusted, the scene shifting as if mocking her every desperate plea. "Don't let them take you," one of the figures cried, its voice hoarse and frayed. The warning barely made it through the chaos of her thoughts, but it sent an icy shiver up her spine. She took a step back, but the boundary of the circle tightened, roots coiling around her feet like iron shackles. Desperation clawed at her. "What do you want?" she pleaded, tears slicing down her cheeks. The figures only stared, the silence smothering her cries. She could feel the darkness pulsing, hungry for her fear, like a predator waiting patiently in the shadows. Suddenly, a chilling wind swept through the clearing, carrying with it the scent of earth and decay. The lantern sputtered as if it sensed the change, flickering wildly. The air turned electric, and she felt the weight of the woods pressing down, forcing her into the ground. Jessie clenched her fists, refusing to be swallowed by despair. "Jake, I'm here!" She screamed into the void, the shrillness echoing, rebounding back at her. Almost in response, the figures began to hum, their sorrow blending with the rhythm of the woods. A slow, haunting melody, wrapping around her as vines crept closer, snaking around her wrists. Then, the ground began to vibrate, and Jessie realized it wasn't just a song. It was a summoning. The figures were weaving their pain into a tapestry of terror, pulling at the threads of her sanity. Jessie felt it, a gnawing isolation pulling at her heart, filling her with the realization of their eternal woe. "Don't give in." Another voice cut through, sharper than the rest, a young girl, face streaked with dirt but eyes fierce, a flicker of hope among the agonizing wails. "Fight for him." She locked eyes with the girl, a flicker of recognition sparking within her. Jessie could almost see Jake in that expression, the fierce loyalty she felt igniting something within her. She twisted against the vines, roaring against her captors, mustering all the heartbreak, hope, and dread she felt. "I will find him. You can't take me." The figures faltered, the harmony of defeat momentarily disrupted by her fierce cry. But it was short-lived. The shadows hissed, curling around her, and in an instant, the forest erupted, a cacophony of anguished screams and laughter, drowning everything out. Jessie gasped, fear slicing through her as the lantern dimmed. "Mommy!" The cry came again, closer this time, undeniable. The shadows surged forward, the darkness blurring. Jessie's heart hammered, dread tightening around her throat. She could feel Jake slipping away. No, not again. Suddenly, the clearing fell silent, the figures retreating into the dark, the haunting melody fading. All that was left was the sound of her ragged breath and the palpable weight of despair hanging in the air. In the distance. A flicker of movement, a sign of life, or another trick of the woods. Jessie's eyes darted, adrenaline pumping, but the darkness between the trees loomed larger. If she turned away now, she would lose Jake forever. Summoning every shred of courage, she stepped into the shadows, her heart racing. Each step could lead her to salvation or deeper into this labyrinth of torment. There was no turning back now. But what awaited her in that dark abyss? That was the true question. The air thickened as Jessie ventured further into the darkness. Each breath felt like a burden, each heartbeat a countdown. The shadows stretched and twisted, seeming to grasp at her limbs, urging her to retreat. But the desperate echo of Jake's voice propelled her forward. "Mommy!" It crackled through the silence, like a candle flickering against the vast dark. She desperately followed that sound, weaving through thick tangles of branches that clawed at her, each scratch pulling her deeper into a spiraling dread. The oppressive atmosphere squeezed her chest. Then, just ahead, a pulse of light. It flickered, illuminating the trunks of shadow-cloaked trees, revealing a faint path spiraling into a clearing. Her heart raced. Could it be Jake? The hope surged, momentarily blinding her to the threat lurking in the pitch around her. With every step, memories threatened to drown her days spent laughing, echoes of Jake's giggles as he played. The farther she moved from the clearing, the louder the memories became, as if the woods themselves were trying to suck her into their murky secrets. But she pressed on. "Jake!" she shouted, voice trembling, the desperation stinging. Shadows seemed to laugh, high and mocking, swirling around the trees in cruel enjoyment. As she reached the clearing, the light vanished abruptly. She stumbled, plunging into an abyss of darkness. Panic gripped her. Heart pounding wildly, she turned in circles, her pulse echoing in her ears. Jake! For a moment silence reigned. Then the air crackled, and from the depths, a familiar whisper floated. Mommy, help! Jessie's hand flew to her mouth, suppressing a sob. I'm coming. The sound wasn't just an echo, it felt alive, spinning in the air, wrapping around her like ivy. But it frayed at the edges, laced with anguish. Suddenly, shadows exploded from the trees, wild and ravenous. They twisted around her, murmurs rising, voices overlapping, frantic, pleading, and furious. Faces of the lost emerged, flickering in and out, their eyes hollow. They beckoned her, pulling her toward their despair with fervor. Join us! One figure hissed, features blurred as if sculpted from mist. You're one of us now. You must stay. A chill settled in her stomach, dread churning like a rock in a pit. No, I just want my son. But a laugh resonated, deep and sardonic, reverberating through the trees. You think you can just take him? He is ours now. No, Jessie screamed, breaking through the circle of despair. But they curled tighter, pulling her toward a void she could almost see. Shadows swirling like a midnight storm, and then a scream. Not Jake's, but from somewhere beyond the distance. A desperate, haunting wail that seemed to carry the weight of every lost child in the woods. Anguish dug deep into Jessie's heart, freezing her in place. A new voice joined the cacophony, a high-pitched giggle cracked through the sorrow. Mommy, you're too late. It taunted, melodious yet twisted, dripping with malice. Jessie felt bile rise in her throat. They were playing with her mind, twisting her memories. This isn't real. She fought against the encroaching shadow, knowing she had to fight, but fear slid around her like a vice. The wind picked up suddenly, hurling leaves and debris all around, as if the woods were coming alive. The shadows shrieked and retracted like smoke in the wind. Just as quickly, they lunged back at her, more furious than before, determined to pull her under. Fight for him. You have to get him. That fierce girl's voice rang in her head again, echoing through the barrage. Get off me! Jessie roared, flinging her arms as she battled the tendrils closing in. She forced herself to think of Jake's laugh, the way he tilted his head in confusion. She pictured another time they played hide and seek in their backyard. But as she resisted, the darkness grew more desperate. You will be ours, Jessie. The shadows hissed, slipping into her ears, like cold fingers wrapping around her mind. With one last, desperate push, she broke free, sprinting toward the direction of the scream, that haunting wail, that pierced through the forest like a beacon. Was it Jake? Or was it another illusion meant to trap her within their grasp? In that moment, she knew just one thing. She had to outrun the darkness chasing her and find out what lay beyond before it consumed everything. What awaited her, hidden in the throes of that unchecked night. She didn't dare look back as she raced toward the terror that thrummed in the air. Jessie ran, every footfall echoing in the hollow air. The wailing grew louder, pulling at her heart like a raw nerve. It was real. It had to be. She felt the shadows clawing at her heels, their cold whispers chasing her thoughts. The trees loomed around her, twisted and gnarled, branches reaching out like hands eager to snatch her. The forest was alive, a sentient beast, mocking her courage. Each breath came harder than the last, fear transforming her urgency into a frantic sprint. Jake! She shouted again, the name tearing from her throat as if it were the only thing keeping her anchored. Each step felt like a gamble. Would the next plunge her into darkness, or offer a glimpse of salvation? Then she stumbled into an opening, a massive hollow surrounded by ancient trees, their trunks rough and twisted. The ground pulsed with a muted glow of bioluminescent fungi, casting an eerie light that made the shadows dance. And there, in the center, lay something that nearly stopped her heart, a small wooden swing, swaying softly, a ghostly reminder of childhood joy. Jake! The swing creaked, as if responding to her desperation. She stepped forward, dread coiling in her stomach. The wail transformed into a string of laughter, maddening and bright. But under it all, a deep sorrow reverberated. It was not Jake's laugh, this was something else. Something sinister. Jessie reached for the swing, but the air thickened again, warning her to stop. Don't, a voice whispered from the shadows, soft and sinuous, crawling along her spine. You will not like what you find. Instinctively, she pulled back. Wisps of shadow flared and retracted with her movement, coiling with a mind of their own. No one can escape us, they hissed, voices blending into a kaleidoscope of cries and laughter. Vacant yet pleading, that a chill ran down her spine as she felt the ground shift beneath her feet. A low rumble like the growl of a beast awakening from slumber. Jake, I'm coming, she cried defiantly, and yet doubt crept in. Would she find him alive, or trapped forever in this nightmare? Mommy, help! His voice broke through the chorus, sharp and clear, piercing through the chaos. Jessie's heart smashed against her ribs, fueling her determination. She surged forward, drawn toward the sound that shattered the hollow laughter. The shadows twisted, reaching for her, but Jessie ducked and raced through the border of the clearing, feeling the weight of their spiteful presence. The laughter morphed into shrieks of fury, clashing against her resolve. And just when it seemed the shadows would swallow her whole, she broke through the threshold into a smaller grove, quieter but tinged with a palpable dread. The trees were gnarled here too, but they formed a circle, protecting what lay at the center. Time slowed. There, trapped within a bubble of darkness, was a shape small and frail, vibrating with pure terror. Jessie felt her blood run cold as recognition hit her. It was Jake, eyes wide, tears streaming down his cheeks, stuck in a web of shadows. Mommy! He cried again, reaching out. The shadows crawled over him, dark tendrils wrapping tighter, squeezing the light from his bright blue eyes. No! Jessie shouted, bolting toward him, adrenaline surging as she pushed against the suffocating whispers. The shadows screamed back, and the air turned electric, a charged wave that slammed into her chest. Not him. Not this time. She choked out, lunging. But just as she grasped Jake's outstretched hand, an eruption of laughter swamped the air. The darkness exploded, silhouette figures emerging from the depths, their eyes gleaming with hunger. Foolish child, one taunted, slinking closer. You think you can save him? You're already ours. Embrace the dark. Time froze. Jessie felt the shadows tighten around her, suffocating yet electrifying, as she held on to Jake's tiny hand with everything she had. But would love be enough to conquer what had already claimed her? In that critical moment, her heart thundered as the tendrils pulled tighter, leaving her breathless and alone in the heart of the chaos. Would she have to choose between saving herself and saving her son? Or could she somehow manage to do both? The answer danced just out of reach as they plunged deeper into the darkness. The shadows wrapped around Jessie like a living shroud, squeezing and tugging. As twisted forms emerged, their laughter a cacophony of mockery. Eyes glinted within the gloom, each one a promise of dread. She gritted her teeth, holding Jake's hand tightly, feeling the warmth of his small fingers against the cold, clammy grip of the darkness surrounding them. Time seemed to twist, stretching seconds into an eternity. Let him go, she screamed, her voice raw, tearing through the fog of horror. The laughter faltered, replaced with a sharp silence, thick and heavy. The figures drew closer, like wolves circling their prey. He is not yours, he is mine. Jessie felt a surge of fierce protectiveness, a wave crashing against the tide of despair. But even as she fought, shadows seeped into her mind, whispering doubts, shadows of memories long buried. Forget him. Join us, one shadow hissed, its voice like the scraping of fingernails on glass. No, never, Jessie cried, shaking her head. She could feel the shadows tugging the edges of her sanity. They wanted her to succumb, to embrace the cold. But she couldn't. Not while Jake was so close, trapped in the grasp of the dark. With a fierce resolve, Jessie yanked Jake's hand, pulling him closer. The shadows retaliated, tightening their grip, battling against her will. Fight them, Jake. Please, fight, she urged, her heart racing as she felt the pressure build around them. "Mommy, I'm scared." Jake's voice quivered, breaking her heart anew. Jessie squeezed his hand even harder, pouring every ounce of strength and love she could muster. "Stay with me. Remember our game, remember the light? We can beat them together." Jessie's voice rose, steady and commanding. But the shadows incited chaos, pulling at Jake, dragging him deeper into their dark embrace. "You will never leave," they crooned, the myriad voices transforming into a single, slithering hiss. Suddenly, she felt something shift. The shadows faltered. For a split second, they recoiled, as if her words had taken root. Jessie seized the moment, pulling Jake into her arms with a ferocity born of desperation. "Run!" she shouted, surging forward. She felt his body against hers, warmth against the frigid darkness. The shadows screamed in fury behind her, clawing at her back, but she refused to look back. The grove erupted in chaos, roots writhing through the ground, trying to ensnare them as they fled. Jessie sprinted toward the tight circle of trees, the silhouettes growing thicker, sharper, and more menacing. Time limped onward, each step heavy with uncertainty. "Mommy, I can't," Jake gasped, fear choking his words as he stumbled. She could feel him weakening, his grip slipping. "No, hold on to me," she urged, digging her feet into the mushy ground as she turned, desperation thrumming in her veins. Jessie knew they had to break free or surrender would come. Panic surged. Would he just fade like a dream? "I can do this. We can do this." Suddenly, the lights of the bioluminescent fungi flared to life, casting a pale glow around them. They momentarily pushed back the shadows, giving them a glimpse of hope. "Jake, to the light!" Jessie yelled, sensing a shift in the pull of the darkness. They rushed headlong into the brilliant glow, the shadows hissing and recoiling as if burned. But as they broke into the light, an unsettling sound echoed behind them, a deep rumble like thunder. Jessie felt the world shift under her feet, and the ground trembled as if the forest itself was protesting their escape. "Hold on," she shouted as the trees creaked and groaned, branches snapping like bones. They stumbled through the glow, willing the light to hold back the encroaching darkness. A final roar erupted from the shadows. Would they really escape? The forest seemed to fold in on itself as Jessie clutched Jake tightly, hurtling toward the surge of light. Would it lead them to safety or a deeper nightmare? Only time would reveal the truth as the darkness closed in behind them. Hungry for retribution, the ground shivered beneath Jessie's feet, sending a shard of panic shooting through her spine. With every hurried step towards the light, the shadows screamed behind them, furious wails that clawed at her ears. The brightness surged, but could it hold back the tide of blackness that scraped ever closer, eager to swallow them whole? "Jake, faster," she urged, feeling the life in his small body begin to falter. As they approached the glowing fungi, she realized that every inch they gained was a desperate battle. The light pulsed, flickering with the rhythm of her racing heart. Did it sense their urgency, or was it simply a bystander in their impending doom? Suddenly, the earth beneath them splintered, a sickening crack echoing through the air. Jessie stumbled, nearly losing her footing as she caught Jake, whose wide eyes reflected pure terror. "What's happening?" he whimpered, shaking against her. Before she could answer, the shadows surged forward with a howl, swirling and gathering like an angry storm. They gathered between her and the light, forming a wall of malice that sparkled with the touch of their greed. Jessie felt a frigid gust whip around them, an emulation of a creature rearing back before striking. "Stick close. We can't stop," she shouted, adrenaline surging as she locked her grip around Jake, whose little hand now felt like a fragile thread. The shadows lunged, arms twisting toward her, grasping and clawing. "We'll take him, Jessie. You should join us. You will feel no pain," they shrieked, their voices a twisted blend of acquaintances from her past friends, family, even her own parents. Jessie's heart ached. They were using her own memories against her. "Jake, listen to me." Jessie turned, her eyes fierce. "We can't let them take you." You're stronger than this. Each word felt heavy, as if draped in a weight that threatened to pull her down into the abyss with every syllable. In that moment, she pushed all doubts aside, focusing on the vitality emanating from her child. You are my light. Remember the games we play, the hope in our imagination? Breathe it with me. But the shadows twisted, snaking their way around Jake's legs. Join us, sweet boy, they cooed, their sing-song voices promising comfort that dangled like a bait. Jessie felt her breath hitch as she saw Jake hesitate, his eyes darting between the dark and her. No, fight them, she screamed, desperation edging her tone. Remember our dreams. Hold my hand. Jessie lifted her voice, a bell tolling for freedom, but the shadows struck back, creating a tangible separation. Jake's face became a mask of distress, tears spilling forth. Mommy! His cry cracked like glass, shattering any semblance of calm. Jessie clung to Diane. That split second, Jessie realized the truth. The shadows were afraid. They feared the bond that twined between them. As if sensing her discovery, the shadows hissed, swiping at Jake, the air crackling with malevolence like a storm brewing. Jake, focus on the light, she urged again, feeling them weakening, trembling beneath her will. It's our way out. Time expanded as Jessie summoned every ounce of resolve, ripping Jake from the grip of despair. The thrum of the cave's energy reverberated through her, making the air feel electric around her. With a final burst of strength, she surged forward, dragging him. Now, as they plunged into the bright embrace of the fungi, the shadows flared into a mass of angry screeches, but Jessie refused to let go, even as they fell into the brilliance. The darkness lashed out desperately behind them. Jessie's heart raced, a wild drum invitation to another chase, but the light enveloped them. Then, everything went still. The pulsating glow dimmed and flickered, as if holding its breath. Jessie's heart thudded louder than before as she scanned their surroundings. Had they truly escaped the darkness, or were they merely stepping into a new realm? Her eyes darted to Jake, who stared wide-eyed at the space around them, a landscape shimmering with impossible colors, yet feeling frightfully familiar. And then from the shadows of the glow, a figure emerged, smiling with a grin that sent chills spiraling down Jessie's spine. Welcome back, it said, and in that moment Jessie understood. Could they have truly escaped at all? Or had the forest merely been waiting for their return? Jessie's breath hitched in her throat as the figure stepped into full view. It wore clothes of draped leaves and flowers, a grotesque mockery of nature's beauty. Its hair flowed like dark vines, and eyes shone with an unnatural glow, hungry and expectant. You've come home, Jessie, it continued, a voice draped in velvet yet tinged with steel. Why fight what is inevitable? Who are you? Jessie managed to voice, every instinct screaming to turn and run. But she couldn't. The light pulsed around them, yet the shadows whispered behind, casting a suffocating grip on her heart. I am the keeper, it replied, that chilling smile spreading wider. You entered my domain through the door of despair. The figure gestured toward the pulsating fungi, glimmering like a beacon of hope amid darkness. But you failed to understand. That door can only be closed from within. Jessie could feel Jake's small body quaking beside her. Mommy, don't let it take me. The innocence in his voice sent knives of panic slicing through her. If you want him, you must accept the truth, the keeper said, voice dripping with feigned sympathy. He is just a piece of a greater game. That's not true, Jessie shouted, her courage flaring like a match against the night. Yes, my son, not a pawn. Are you so sure? The keeper leaned closer, invasive and hypnotic. The air thickened, charged with the memories that flitted in and out of Jessie's mind, scraps of laughter that echoed in the halls of her heart, darkened by the shadows whispering of loss and despair. What happens when you're too late? When the darkness you've fled welcomes you back with open arms? Jessie felt the unease worming its way into her mind, probing at her insecurities. She recalled nights spent wandering through grief and guilt, the terror that gripped her whenever she thought of being alone. Was this creature right? Would she lose Jake as well? Mommy! Jake's voice erupted again, breaking through the tangled web of fear. I'm scared. She knelt protectively in front of him, meeting the keeper's gaze. You can't have him, she declared, her voice fierce, yet trembling. I'd rather plunge into the darkness myself than let you take him. The keeper laughed, a sound that echoed against the walls of the cave, bouncing back in distorted waves. Oh, but that's just it. You cannot escape. You exist in the shadow of your grief, forever haunted by the things you refuse to let go. With a flick of its wrist, shadows coiled tighter around them, inching closer, hissing with malicious intent. Jessie tried to push Jake behind her, realizing how futile it felt against that consuming darkness. Yet, through the suffocating grip of despair, a flicker of resolve ignited within Jessie. Jake, she shouted, her voice an army against the encroaching dread. Remember the games we played, the dreams we built? You are my light. Repeat them. Focus on our love. But the keeper was drawing closer, slowly wrapping limbs of darkness around Jessie, taunting. Can your love save you now? Are you strong enough to face the truth? Jake's tiny body trembled, eyes wide with fear as he whispered, Mommy, I want to go home. With that simple plea, the shadows stuttered, hesitating for just a moment. Jessie seized on that frail flicker of hope. She grabbed Jake's hand tighter, yanking him close. We will find our way out. Together. As she shouted, she felt a surge of warmth, like the sun breaking through gray clouds. The glow around them intensified, giving her strength. But the fight wasn't over yet. The darkness still pulsated, eager for its meal. What will you sacrifice to keep him safe? The keeper taunted, eyes glinting like shards of broken glass. The air thickened and Jessie found herself at a crossroad, heart racing in panic. What would she have to give up? And for her son? Just then, the ground beneath them began to tremble again, throwing them off balance. Beneath the keeper's laughter, an even deeper sound rose, a growl that reverberated through the cave's walls. The tension reached a breaking point as shadows and light fought for dominance. Could they truly hold on? Or would they be swallowed by the darkness once more? And then a shadow surged forward, seizing the air around them, whispering secrets meant only for her to hear. What would Jessie discover as they teetered on the brink of despair? The growl vibrated through Jessie's bones, gnawing at her resolve. She felt the chill of the cave seep into her skin, freezing the warmth that sparked within her. The keeper's eyes flared, reflecting the shifting shadows around them, each flicker an invitation to succumb to despair. It's too late, Jessie, the keeper murmured, lips curling into that twisted smile. Just let go. Your world is gone, and your son is not a part of this new chapter. You cannot rewrite what has already been written. No, Jessie spat, clenching Jake's hand, squeezing it until it felt almost too tight. You don't get to decide. I'm not giving in. But as she stood her ground, the cave roared with renewed fury. Shadows writhed like living serpents, snaking around her feet, pulling at her resolve. A strange desperation filled Jessie as she felt the ground give beneath her. The pulsating fungi dimmed, and the cave's walls sighed, echoing her fears. Desperate, Jessie focused on Jake. Remember how we used to play? You're the bravest knight, and I'm your queen. Together we can conquer anything. She needed him to believe, to fight. Because if he believed, she could tether herself to that glimmer of hope, even as the darkness coiled greedily around them. Jake nodded, tears spilling down his cheeks. I remember the dragon. His voice trembled but held flickering courage. We beat the dragon. Yes, we can do it again, Jessie yelled, feeling the swell of emotion rise in her throat, pushing back against the panicked whispers, the keeper's haunting promises of loss and despair. But the keeper's laughter intensified, its voice swirling like smoke in the air, wrapping around them both. Such pretty fantasies. Are you really willing to fight the inevitable with just memories? Suddenly, the shadows around them lunged, a tidal wave of darkness crashing towards them. Jessie felt the grip of despair tighten even more, choking off her breath, forcing her back. No, stand with me. Jake, The chill of the cave seeped further into her bones. A freezing reminder of the past she thought she'd left behind. Images flooded her mind: the day she lost herself, the agony of grief, the night spent longing for a light that had flickered too soon. But then she remembered, like a beacon breaking through the storm, tiny hands clutching her arm as they danced in the living room, sunlight streaming through the windows, laughter that broke the silence like glass. That was hope. That was love. Jessie leaned down to look Jake in the eye. "Say it with me. We are stronger than darkness. We are not alone. Stronger than darkness." Jake echoed, voice wavering but determined. "Not alone," Jessie added, strength forming through the trembling of her body. The shadows hesitated again, as though stung by their words. Just for a moment, Jessie's heart soared, hope igniting a flare of warmth between them. But the keeper lunged forward, rage seeping from its form, dark vines reaching hungrily. "Foolish girl, your love cannot pierce the veil of reality. You will pay for your stubbornness." The ground trembled violently beneath them, and Jessie knew they were running out of time. The keeper was drawing upon a deeper well of darkness, one that could obliterate their hopes entirely. "We can't wait," Jessie shouted, and they raced toward the fungi, the only light amid the looming shadows. As they reached it, a feeling of dread clawed at the edges of Jessie's mind. "This is it, Jake. On the count of 3, we jump into the light." But thoughts raced. Was she really prepared to leap into what might be a trap? The keeper's laughter echoed again, resonating within her. "Trust in your love, Jessie," it whispered, a twisted reassurance, "or perish with the truth." And in that moment, Jessie struggled between hope and despair, their only lifeline teetering on the edge of oblivion. Would they leap into the unknown, or would they succumb to the keeper's dark intentions, dragging them down to the depths of despair? As the shadows surged forward, Jessie felt an instinctive pull towards the light, but the shadows howled louder, a cacophony of despair that threatened to drown them both. And just when she thought she found courage, the ground shuddered violently beneath their feet, a portal to another world ripping open, and the shadows beckoned them closer. "What's on the other side?" Jessie asked, heart racing. The keeper's grin widened, and behind it, a chilling whisper filled the air, echoing with promises of salvation and threats of ruin. "Will you take their hand?" It taunted. With time running out, Jessie could only wonder if stepping into that light meant reaching safety or stepping into greater horrors. What awaited them on the other side? Jessie clutched Jake's hand as the vibrations in the ground deepened, a low growl rumbling like a beast awakening from a slumber. The keeper's figure pulsed with dark energy, remnants of whispers flitting through the air like angry fireflies, each one a taunt, a temptation, weaving a tapestry of dread around her heart. The shadows surged forward, coiling against her like a living entity, pressing tighter, squeezing her resolve so abruptly she could barely breathe. "Hold on to me. We can do this together," she shouted, mustering every ounce of love and courage within, trying to drown out the cacophony of despair. A part of her trembled as the keeper's laughter rippled through the darkened cave, vibrating against the walls like a horrible symphony of lost hope. "Join us," the shadows pleaded through cruel voices, murmuring familiar names. Echoes of laughter turned to sobs. "You belong here. You cannot fight fate. I won't give in," Jessie screamed back, forcing herself not to look at the swirling shadows that came closer, reaching out for Jake. She felt the heat of his panic radiating from him, felt his little fingers shaking in her grip. "We are stronger than this. Remember, Jake." The forest around them shivered, shadows clawing ever closer like a monstrous maw. "The light is nothing but a facade. You will lose everything," the keeper taunted, its eyes glowing with malicious delight. Jessie's heart pounded. They had to break free before the darkness swallowed them whole. "Jake," she cried again straight into his frightened eyes. "We've fought through everything together. Remember? Those monsters in the backyard?" "Yeah." Jake's voice trembled but held a glimmer, hanging on to hope like a candle flickering in a storm. "We beat them." "Yes." "Together," Jessie encouraged, desperation spilling into her voice. "We can face this one, too. Repeat after me. We are brave because we love. Brave because we love, Jake echoed, and for a brief moment, the shadows hesitated, recoiling as if struck. Now, on three, we jump, Jessie commanded, adrenaline coursing through her as she felt the air shift, the shadows shuddering away from their light, their soft glow pulsing gently in the presence of their defiance. As they reached the bioluminescent fungi, Jessie counted with urgency. 1, 2, 3. They leapt toward the light. In an explosion of warmth, everything shifted. The pulsating glow enveloped them tightly, cocooning their fear, pushing the shadows away like a breeze erasing a dream. Jessie felt the darkness tear at her from behind, an echo of despair howling in protest, but their grip weakened. And then a tranquil silence. They landed in a clearing bathed in soft sunlight, warm hues washing over them. Bright greens and golden yellows danced in a gentle breeze. Jessie gulped in air, her heart still racing as she turned to Jake. His eyes sparkled wide, reflecting luminous joy, a mixture of disbelief and comfort in the aftermath of their flight from horror. "Mommy, we did it," he gasped, the wonder blossoming in his expression. Life back where it belonged. Jessie enveloped him in a tight embrace, trying to ensure he really was there, solid and alive. "Yes, we did. We beat the darkness." But as she looked beyond their little sanctuary, uncertainty crept back in. The woods still loomed just beyond the lightest glow, massive and foreboding, its twisted branches bowed like dark sentinels waiting, watching. And then, from the depths of the woods, the keeper's voice echoed back to her, a silky whisper that sent shivers racing down her spine. "You may have escaped for now, but the darkness within you will always remain." Jessie felt her heart drop. The shadows were gone, but had she truly won? Could the scars left behind ever heal? "Mommy?" Jake tugged at her sleeve, eyes looking up with concern. "What's wrong?" "Nothing," Jessie said, forcing a smile. "Let us go home." As they walked together, leaving the remnants of the woods behind, she buried the lingering fear deep within her heart. She knew they had faced the abyss, and even if the shadows both outside and within would try to follow, they would always have each other. They were free, at least for now. "Run!" Jessie suddenly shouted, and with a joyful giggle, Jake took off ahead, laughter spilling back into the world around them. Each pounding step echoed with hope. Each giggle drowned out the darkness, making it a little less powerful, reminding them both that love and courage could indeed conquer the shadows that lingered on the edge of the woods. They didn't have to face the woods alone anymore. As they crossed the threshold of the town, the weight of heavy shadows began to ease, memories growing dimmer, replaced instead with the vibrant colors of life. Together, they would redefine their destiny. And who knows, maybe the true battle was one they fought not just in the woods, but every single day after they returned, a choice to embrace light over darkness, to find courage where despair once reigned. "Love is stronger than fear," Jessie shouted one last time, feeling the warmth of that truth flood through her. And for the first time, that darkness did not follow. Goodbye to the woods. Hello, life. Now, fellow reader, this story has come to its glorious end. But hold on. You need to subscribe now to the channel so you don't miss the next exclusive stories. Smash that like button and help us feed the algorithm. Join the conversation and flood the comments section with your reactions and theories about this ending. Don't wait even one more second to share this video with at least 5 friends who also need to see this conclusion. Your support matters. Show us you care.